When I was a wee lad, I was that one kid that borrowed a game only to never return it. That game was Turok Evolution, which I own to this very day. But you saw the title. This video isn't about that game, but about the reboot of the franchise from 2008, simply titled Turok. Some might now ask, why out of all of the Turok games I chose this one? Well, you can see it as me being a contrarian or doing some sort of malicious compliance. Case in point, I was asked if I would play Turok on stream. What the person asking meant was obviously the original trilogy. I thought it was a funny joke until about halfway through the game, that is. But before I get to that, let me quickly fill you in on what Turok 2008 is even about. Turok is one of these games where they had an old IP and thought to themselves, hey, how about we reboot this old franchise, but modernize it? Now we've seen this work out with games like Doom 2016 or Shadow Warrior, but in this case they just went, let's make a generic shooter with big burly men. Oh, and throw in some dinosaurs for the old fans. The same attitude can be seen in the story, where you play as Joseph Turok. I'm surprised they didn't go with John Turok at this point. He is a Kiowa space marine on a mission to capture his former commander, Kane, on a planet full of dinos. I can already see you guys shaking in your seats from excitement after hearing about this not generic at all plot and how you are about to rush out to grab a copy for yourself. But hold your horses a little while longer. Turok has one more ace up its sleeve. A bow. I know, right? Remember that period in time when bows became a thing in shooters? I almost wanted to say that it chased this trend as well, but Turok actually precedes it by a few years. But it would have been the cherry on top. To round this section off, however, it does take part in one trend from the PS3 360 era, the drab, monotonous color scheme. In this case, it was a brown/dark green, opposed to the piss filter, but tomato. Now that you know about Turok, how is it to actually play it? Well, I already told you a bit about the story, but let me give you a quick rundown. You wake up from a cryo-sleep on a spaceship. Your crewmates make fun of you like the little kids back in school, with one especially mean kid that really doesn't like you. We quickly get shot down and crash land on a planet inhabited by dinosaurs. A modern game would have included a line like, hold on, are those freaking dinosaurs? Yeah, I'm gonna need a bigger gun to deal with them. But in this case, it gets almost treated like another Thursday. From this point on, the game's story starts to take a backseat. We team up with more survivors.
Don't think this changes anything. We may be stuck together, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
And learn a bit about what Kane is doing on this planet.
This planet's being terraformed. No wonder it's so screwed up.
Until we are reunited with more survivors. We quickly get sent to retrieve a comms unit, and in the short time we are away, the leader of our group seems to start to lose it a little.
Whoa, wait a second. What about the comm unit?
Yeah, if we don't get that comm, we're not going home.
Did you hear me say you shouldn't go after it?
Take it easy, Logan. I was just...
Shut the hell up.
So we take the smart route and continue our mission to find the comms unit.
Jackpot, I got it!
Once we get back to our squad, the tension begins to rise even further.
Why don't you cut him some slack?
I prefer to just cut him. Pull out your knife. Let's see what you're made of.
And since it's nightfall, we seem to have a Riddick situation on our hand.
It's getting dark out. Let's wait until morning, okay?
We go down.
All right, fine.
Which turns out to be giant bugs. Problem solved. We rejoin our squad just as they're finally going on the offensive. But our leader has fully lost it, accusing Turok of being a traitor.
You! Logan, Slade was right. He's a traitor. Plug the leak and we all go home alive.
You having some kind of mental lapse, Logan?
Not even reenacting the scene from the Fellowship of the Ring where the hobbits hide from the Nazgul cools him down. It's honestly quite remarkable how the leader managed to lose it within at most 48 hours of crashing onto the planet. From here on, we find out that Kane wants to use the box to create, what else? Bioweapons, of course.
Gentlemen, I believe that we've discovered the perfect bioweapon. Mendel Griffin will be paying extra when we bring this back.
At the same time, we infiltrate the main base to steal a ship to escape the planet, which we do, but Turok stays back to defeat Kane.
I'm staying. I have to stop Kane. I can't let him get away.
We have to go, guys, now!
Go get him.
After which we actually get rescued by the remaining squad, only to fly off into space to live happily ever after.
What? You really thought we'd leave you?
It's a story alright, but not a good one. Hunting the bad guy who develops a bioweapon, a guy who doesn't like us only to later change his mind, and a leader that starts to lose it in a survival situation. It feels like a manager walking in on the writer's brainstorming session and saying, "This is great, ship it." Story aside, what about the combat? It's a first-person shooter, you know what to expect. That being said, there were some nice ideas. One was the ability to akimbo many of the weapons. You get 2 weapon slots to which you can equip any 2 weapons, and if both weapons can be one-handed, then you can use them in akimbo. I like the way it is implemented, as it gives the player a certain amount of freedom. The other thing that stood out was the bow. It was an interesting weapon that could carry you easily, since it is precise and deals a lot of damage. But you can't just keep it drawn, as Turok loses stamina over time, causing him to shake and letting go eventually. This makes the bow interesting, as you want to fully draw it for maximum power, but at the same time you need to have your target ready as to not misfire. It creates a nice sense of urgency. With that said though, there's one part that is extremely disappointing. The boss fights. I really didn't like any of them. They felt clunky and just shoved in. First, you have the T-Rex, which you have multiple run-ins with before you actually fight him, and once I did eventually fight him, I was confused at what to even do. I shot him with everything I got, and sometimes he would fall, but I couldn't do anything after that. It turns out, however, I had to stand at the correct angle to him once he fell down to finish him off with a quick time event. The next boss had the same issue for me. It is a giant eel you fight after going through the bug caves. The fight consists of you dodging the eel until he tries to bite you, which is when you use your flamethrower to light gas vents on fire, making them explode. The problem is that you stand way too close to them to the point where it feels like it would hurt you as well. But the worst was yet to come. The final fight against the man that the plot revolved around was an absolute joke. In the first phase, you fight a ship that's shooting at you until you hit it with a few rockets. But what do you think comes after? A face-to-face knife fight with Kane in form of a QTE. God, I don't miss this trend in gaming. Fret not, the T-Rex comes back with a vengeance for the final showdown. During the fight, you have to sprint to conveniently placed rocket turrets to shoot the T-Rex with. All the while, he is right behind you the entire time, ready to 1 or 2 shot you, forcing you to redo the entire fight. I tried a bunch of times, but just could not do it. I was honestly in disbelief. Even with God mode on, I felt like I barely managed to fight him off. It almost felt bugged to me. Which brings me to the technical flaws. While there were not many notable ones present, a few stood out. The biggest one being the camera control, which I noticed within the first 10 seconds of controlling Turok. If I looked around too fast, the camera would skip, and no matter what I did, I could only mitigate it, but not fix it. This caused me to have to pay constant attention to not play the game like any other first-person game on PC. Then we have the bad audio mixing.
You at least check out some of the other record sites. We need ammo and supplies.
With the lack of audio sliders or subtitles, which made the game feel untested. Even watching the footage back, I have to sometimes guess what the characters are saying. There also was a door that failed to open after splitting up with my squad. And speaking of said squad, not only were they useless, but they also caused a soft lock. One of them got stuck only to free himself and then despawn. The problem here was that he needed to be at a specific spot for me to advance the game. Normally, a soft lock is just a minor annoyance. That is until you factor in the game's single worst feature, the checkpoints. Their placement was truly atrocious and felt like pure padding. You could make it all the way through a firefight only to be killed by some random enemy you didn't even see and would have to redo the entire thing. This happened multiple times until I reached a point where I couldn't take it anymore. First was the battle before entering the main base, which was just a slog since you had to go through it in a snake pattern, with turrets shooting at you and the reinforcements dropping in. Then the second was inside of the base, where you had to blow up 3 generators, where after every generator the game would spawn flying bugs. More and more with every generator, and I swear it felt like they spawned endlessly. Then after blowing up the generators, you had to climb down a ladder at a snail's pace, while getting shot at with no way to defend yourself. They really turned the annoyance all the way up with that one. I haven't even talked about the multiplayer, because of course it has one. I neither played it, nor do I think that I could find a match. From videos though, it doesn't look that exciting anyways. So where does this leave me? I think that it was a fun look back at an older game which was an attempt at bringing back an older franchise. I failed one, but still an attempt. The game just suffers a lot from trying to fit into a mold that has been used to death even back in 2008. And on top of that, it had these awful checkpoints which feel like padding more than anything else. And this trend seems to continue with the next attempt, Turok Origins, which from the trailers looks to be made for modern audiences and as generic as it can get. Why can't they just look at what Doom did and do that? Give me a modern looking version of the first few Turok games with some snappier gameplay. Or you know what? Turn Turok into an open world dino hunting game with a story you can follow on your own whim. Basically, Turok Breath of the Wild. I think this would work out great if done right, but obviously they would find a way to F it up. So with all of that said, should you play Turok from 2008? No. Do yourself a favor and go play any of the other Turok games instead. But hey, maybe this is your favorite game and I'm just wrong. So if this happens to be your absolute favorite 2008 shooter, tell me why I'm wrong down in the comments.